Yo, what's up, nerds? It's the weekend, and I missed last weekend because, long story short, I got super depressed and I really did not feel like doing anything, and I dropped the ball, and I'm really sorry about that. But we're back with a brand new episode this week, and we're still in the summer of ass. It's really still fucking hot outside. It's so unbelievable. I hate it so much. It's so uncomfortable. It's so humid. It's so gross. And I know it's worse elsewhere in the country, and I'm sorry that you guys are dealing with it worse than I am, but I'm a selfish prick, and it's hot, and I don't like to sweat, and it's gross. So I'm going to stay inside, watch a whole bunch of anime, and then tell you guys, you should watch this shit. So let's get started with a brand new episode, Anime Streaming Showcase. Still in the middle of Summer of Ass. Let's go with Parasyte. Years ago, there was a rumor that circulated stating that humans, on average, swallow 5 spiders every night as they sleep. But this was eventually proven false, as the likelihood of a spider approaching close enough to a human, then proceeding to march itself to its death inside someone's mouth, is very anti-survival instincts. However, in the case of Parasyte, a manga written by Hitoshi Iwaki and an anime produced by Studio Madhouse, the titular parasites require human hosts for their survival. Suddenly appearing on Earth and quickly acting to take over a human host as soon as possible, the parasites bore in through an open ear or nose canal and make their way quickly to the brain. At least that's the plan. But for one such parasite, their journey to the cortex is impeded so that they must burrow into the host's arm. Luckily, a light sleeper, the host Shinichi wakes up to cut off the parasite's plan and leaving it to rest in his right arm. The two are quite literally attached at the hand now, and Shinichi and his new friend, now named Migi, must coexist in an out-of-this-world odd couple scenario rife with other parasites, schools, and relationships. It might sound rather fey and lighthearted, but Parasyte almost immediately shows the dark, haunting sides of survival for both Shinichi and Migi. Parasyte established its legacy decades ago, when the manga ran from 1988 to 1995, subverting tropes and reinventing psychological horror and sci-fi manga. It was always critically adored, and fans would always be fast to recommend it to newcomers and anyone requesting a new series to invest in. While I had never read the manga series before diving into the anime version, from what I've gathered online and following the series weekly as it aired, the adaptation was incredibly faithful to the source material, with a few minor necessary modern changes to update the setting and the world, as well as just fitting the anime medium. Parasyte's main appeal is in its philosophy and its characters, and the anime has seemingly captured that and created a memorable, albeit occasionally preachy and hammering over the head message by the end of the 24-episode run. The show rarely hides the gruesome sides of the parasites and even humanity, as limbs are ripped off, organs are torn out, and bodies are bifurcated like a hot knife through butter. When bodies aren't being slashed and gutted, the verbose characters exposit and contemplate their new existence. Shinichi's growth over the course of Parasyte is an interesting factor. He's never presented as a typical nerdy loner or the cocky, broken rebel, but a lot of series tend to lean hard on that in this genre. He's not the strongest kid, nor is he the weakest. He's not the smartest, nor is he the dumbest. He's about as middling can be. I realize that paints Shinichi as quite plain or boring, but it's not until Migi enters his life does Shinichi start to become above average. Migi's ability to interact with Shinichi and manipulate him to keep itself alive is Migi's main goal. Migi and Shinichi share this dynamic throughout the course of the series that walks a rather transparent line of human good, parasite bad motif that on the surface holds a glimmer of exploration, but Parasyte's true weakness of the series lies here, in its inability to flesh out any of its posturizing. Parasyte's first third is its strongest set of episodes, and it creates a world that seems so fun and so deep to explore, but by the time the final credits roll on episode 24, the leap just hasn't been taken, and so we're still awaiting the impact. Parasyte often comes off as someone who wishes to sound smart, sound intelligent about subjects, but lacks the depth or ability to then accentuate upon them. Yeah, you can mention the altruistic views of Shinichi and the like, but without clarifying them or offering solutions, you're hardly being anything more than grandiose. It comes off as more style over substance to me personally. Look, I enjoyed Parasyte the first time I saw it. I thought it was an incredibly stylistic show, and it perhaps benefits from it being watched weekly rather than being binged. But upon this rewatch, there is a lot to pull apart from it that casts it in a lesser light. Too many monologues and roundabout theories ultimately limit Parasyte's impact and leave it feeling hollow. That hollowness really comes in the final 2/3 of the series, and that's the bulk of the show, when there is so much happening, but very little actually occurring. More and more parasites suddenly arrive on the scene and reveal themselves, presenting Shinichi with more and more battles, but aside from Reiko, none really are outstanding. Reiko's story is honestly one of the most intriguing, but we vaguely get elements of it, as it's Shinichi's tends to be the main focus. Reiko's ability to evolve as a parasite, trying to blend in with humanity, is remarkable, and her arc is truly terrific. I'll admit that I'm often contrarian, and I tend to be the antithesis more often than not. And I do like Parasyte. I do think it has its charm, it has its style, it has its story that it likes to tell, it has some characters that are really fun and interesting to watch. But the fact that it doesn't really dwell on any of its ideas or really expand on them really ultimately hurts the series in the end. And while it is flashy and it's a good looking animation thanks to Studio Madhouse, looking good doesn't mean anything if what you're spouting and what you're trying to get across comes off as numb or very barely there. You can have a brilliant looking series like Hunter x Hunter and still have a message to convey and still convey that message very well. Parasyte unfortunately fails to convey that message even though it wants to tell its message. It never quite gets it out. It throws all of these ideas at you and says, hey, let's talk about this, let's talk about that, but it doesn't actually talk about this or that and provide any possible solutions other than just these are the problems and here are they presented to you, what do you want to do about them? And that's really the annoyance of a lot of series like this, where they'll just bring up a lot of problems, bring up a lot of issues that are around them, but not provide any solution whatsoever and leave it completely up to the reader or the viewer to fill in the blanks. And there's no problem with vagueness, but there's a problem with leaving an open-ended, open discussion kind of story, because it can be really frustrating for a lot of viewers or a lot of readers because their views may not exactly be what is ultimately accepted as a plausible answer. And it's a really frustrating thing to see and read on the internet of an open-ended story and then someone being shot down or being blasted because their idea of an ending doesn't fit the narrative that others are saying. So while I would never say never watch Parasyte, I do think it's very watchable. I do think it's a great show to watch visually and audibly. The soundtrack is great. It's a new mix of this weird dubstep, light dubstep style with a little bit of orchestral pieces and things like that. It works really well. If you're not into that, you'll probably be like, and it'll just fade into the background anyway. It'll just be background white noise. The folly of Parasyte is it's just so grandiose, but not actually allowing an answer to come through. But if you can get past that and you just want a sort of action show that is incredibly well animated, it's a brief show. It's only 24 episodes, so you can binge it in a weekend or over the course of a week, and it's not a huge investment of time, and you will still get something out of it. I would say go with Parasyte. It's a worthwhile show. But if you're looking something with a little bit more depth and will give you answers rather than leaving it up to the viewer to decide what is or what isn't right, wrong, or in between, Parasyte will not be the show to do that for you, unfortunately. But absolutely go find it. You can find it pretty much everywhere. Parasyte's easy to find. It's on Crunchyroll. It's on Hulu. Sentai Filmworks has the licensing rights. They've released a dub. It aired on Toonami a couple of years ago. Definitely find the series if you're in for something of like a sci-fi action show. It'll fill that niche, which I know we all have every now and again. Definitely don't overlook Parasyte, but just go into it hesitantly is what I would say. Still, thumbs up. Parasyte's great. It just is kind of hollow. That's all. So there we have it. I felt like that was a little mean towards Parasyte. I do really like that show. I just wish it had a better message to convey, or any message at all. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Summer of Anime Streaming Showcase is still happening. Summer of a.s.s is on its way to you. I would also like to say, if you're wanting something that's currently airing to watch, I would recommend a show called Made in Abyss. It is on the Anime Strike service provided by Amazon. It's a story of, essentially, think Dante's Inferno inverted, where it's this gigantic world and these characters survive by diving into the abyss to bring up treasures and different things. But it's about this particular girl named Riko who was born in the abyss. Her mother is apparently down inside the abyss, and she wants to go find her mother. From what I've gathered from manga readers and other people on the internet, the series apparently takes a deep, dark turn eventually. We're only 3 episodes in right now, and it hasn't been overly dark, but there's been a lot of hints and hiddenness that can convey that there might be something drastic on the horizon. But visually, it's astounding. It's such a beautiful series. The soundtrack so far has been really great. And despite its cute little charm that it seems to have in its presentation, there belies something that will say, this gets dark. Please be aware that this is going to be turning into something not really for kids. But right now, it's one of the few series I've picked up this season because I've got too much to watch. But if you're wanting something that's currently airing, Made in Abyss, seriously, go check out the first 3 episodes. Tell me what you think. I think it's fantastic so far. I want to see more people talking about the show. It's pretty great. But in the meantime, we will see you next time for Anime Streaming Showcase. We'll have a brand new episode. I will try not to get depressed anymore and put this off because I really want to do more of these. And I thank you for watching. All that fun stuff. We'll see you around laser time. See ya.